Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Thakur Premanande. Welcome up. I sorry, I know your alarm went off, but I think you went back to sleep for a second. Hare Krishna. All right. Welcome to everybody. We have Ishani Devidasi online, and we have Bhakti Cassidy in the flesh. Hare Krishna. And we're in Sri Sri Nitai Mayapur Chandra's temple. Quick darshan for the onliners. Hare Krishna. Okay. So we're diving into Srimad Bhagavatam. Canto 1, Chapter 15.
33?
Yeah. Text 33. So we're going to dive in here. I would like to go do the kirtan in Ypsilanti. So I might shorten it a little bit. Just go there for a little bit. I could just come back. Half hour away. So anyway, be forewarned. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam namaskritya narang chaiva naruttamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udirayat Shrinvatam swakata Krishna punya shravana kirtana hridyantasto yabhadrani vidhunukti sahritsatam nashtaprayashvabhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya Bhagavat yuktam ashloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. Alright, text 33. Pratapyanushrita dananjayodhitam. Sorry. Pratapyanushrutya dananjayodhitam nasham yadunam bhagavad gitim jatam. Ekanta bhaktya bhagavatya dhukshaje niveshatatmo pararama sangshritehe. Kunti, after overhearing Arjuna's telling of the end of the Yadu dynasty and disappearance of Lord Krishna, engaged in the devotional service of the transcendental personality of Godhead with full attention and thus gained release from the course of material existence. Purport. The setting of the sun does not mean the end of the sun. It means that the sun is out of our sight. Similarly, the end of the mission of the Lord on a particular planet or universe only means that he is out of our sight. The end of the Yadu dynasty also does not mean that it is annihilated. It disappears along with the Lord, out of our sight. As Maharaj Yudhisthira decided to prepare to go back to Godhead, so also Kunti decided. And thus she fully engaged herself in the transcendental devotional service of the Lord, which guarantees one a passport for going back to Godhead after quitting this present material body. The beginning of devotional service to the Lord is the beginning of spiritualizing the present body. And thus an unalloyed devotee of the Lord loses all material contact in the present body. The abode of the Lord is not a myth, as is thought by the unbelievers or ignorant people. But one cannot reach there by any material means like a Sputnik or a space capsule. But one can certainly reach there after leaving this present body, and one must prepare himself to go back to Godhead by practicing devotional service. That guarantees a passport for going back to Godhead, and Kunti adopted it. passport for going back to Godhead.
Yeah, get mine.
Yeah. It takes a while, though.
Yeah.
Right, actually, not really. It says practicing devotional service, you get a passport.
Okay. It's pretty cheap.
Pretty immediate. Alright, text 34. Yayaharad bhuvo bhadam tam tanum vijahavaja katakam kantakeneva dvayam chapi shatu shamam. The Supreme Unborn, Lord Sri Krishna, caused the members of the Yadu dynasty to relinquish their bodies, and thus he relieved the burden of the world. This action was like picking out a thorn with a thorn, though both are the same to the controller. Report. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur suggests that the rishis like Shaunaka and others who were hearing Srimad Bhagavatam from Sutta Goswami at Naimisharanya were not happy to hear about the Yadus dying in the madness of intoxication. To give them relief from this mental agony, Sutta Goswami assured them that the Lord caused the members of the Yadu dynasty to relinquish their bodies, by which they had to take away the burden of the world. The Lord and his eternal associates appeared on earth to help the administrative demigods in eradicating the burden of the world. He therefore called for some of the confidential demigods to appear in the Yadu family and serve him in his great mission. After the mission was fulfilled, the demigods, by the will of the Lord, relinquished their corporeal bodies by fighting amongst themselves in the madness of intoxication. The demigods are accustomed to drinking the Somarasa beverage, and therefore the drinking of wine and intoxication are not unknown to them. Sometimes they were put into trouble for indulging in intoxication. Once the sons of Kuvera fell in the wrath of Narada for being intoxicated, but afterwards they regained their original forms by the grace of the Lord Sri Krishna. We shall find this story in the 10th canto. For the Supreme Lord, both the Asuras and the demigods are equal, but the demigods are obedient to the Lord, whereas the Asuras are not. Therefore, the example of picking out a thorn by another thorn is quite befitting. One thorn which causes pinpricks in the leg of the Lord is certainly disturbing to the Lord, and the other thorn which takes out the disturbing elements certainly gives service to the Lord. So, although every living being is a part and parcel of the Lord, still one who is a pinprick to the Lord is called an Ashura, and one who is a voluntary servitor of the Lord is called a Devata, or demigod. In the material world, the Devatas and Asuras are always contending, and the Devatas are always saved from the hands of the Asuras by the Lord. Both of them are under the control of the Lord. The world is full of two kinds of living beings, and the Lord's mission is always to protect the Devatas and destroy the Asuras, whenever there is such a need in the world, and to do good to both of them. Yatamatyadi rupani datejayad yatanataha Bhubarakshapito yena jahatascha kalevaram. The Supreme Lord relinquished the body which he manifested to diminish the burden of the earth. Just like a magician, he relinquishes one body to accept different ones, like the fish incarnation and others. Purport. The Supreme Lord, personality of Godhead, is neither impersonal nor formless, but his body is non-different from him, and therefore he is known as the embodiment of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. In the Brihad Vaishnava Tantra, it is clearly mentioned that anyone who considers the form of Lord Krishna to be made of material energy must be ostracized by all means. And if by chance the face of such an infidel is seen, one must clean himself by jumping in the river with his clothing. It's no joke. The Lord is described as Amrita, or deathless, because he has no material body. Under the circumstances, the Lord's dying or quitting his body is like the jugglery of a magician. The magician shows his tricks that he is cut to pieces, shows by his tricks that he is cut to pieces, burnt to ashes, or made unconscious by hypnotic influences. But all are false shows only. Factually, the magician himself is neither burnt to ashes nor cut to pieces, nor is he dead or unconscious at any stage of his magical demonstration. Similarly, the Lord has his eternal forms of unlimited variety, of which the fish incarnation, as was exhibited within this universe, is also one. Because there are innumerable universes, somewhere or other the fish incarnation must be manifesting his pastimes without cessation. In this verse, the particular word dhate, eternally accepted, is not the word dhitva, accepted for the occasion. In this verse, the particular word dhate, eternally accepted, and not the word dhitva, accepted for the occasion, is used. The idea is that the Lord does not create the fish incarnation. He eternally has such a form, and the appearance and disappearance of such an incarnation serves particular purposes. In the Bhagavad Gita 7:24 and 25, the Lord says, "The impersonalists think that I have no form, that I am formless, but that at present I have accepted a form to serve a purpose, and now I am manifested." But such speculators are factually without sharp intelligence. Though they may be good scholars in the Vedic literatures, they are practically ignorant of my inconceivable energies and my eternal forms of personality. The reason is that I reserve the power of not being exposed to the non-devotees by my mystic curtain. The less intelligent fools are therefore unaware of my eternal form, which is never to be vanquished and is unborn. In the Padma Purana it is said that those who are envious and always angry at the Lord are unfit to know the actual and eternal form of the Lord. In the Bhagavatam also it is said that the Lord appeared like a thunderbolt to those who were wrestlers. Shishupal, at the time of being killed by the Lord, could not see him as Krishna, being dazzled by the glare of the Brahmajyoti. Therefore, the temporary manifestation of the Lord as a thunderbolt to the wrestlers appointed by Kamsa, or the glaring appearance of the Lord before Shishupal, was relinquished by the Lord. But the Lord as a magician is eternally existent and is never vanquished in any circumstance. Such forms are temporarily shown to the Asuras only, and when such exhibitions are withdrawn, the Asuras think that the Lord is no more existent, just as the foolish audience thinks the magician to be burnt to ashes or cut to pieces. The conclusion is that the Lord has no material body, and therefore he is never to be killed or changed by his transcendental body. Yada mukundo bhagavan imam mahim jahasvatanva shravaniya satkataha tidahareva pratibhuta chetasam abhadra hetu kalir anvavartata. When the personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, left this earthly planet in his self-same form, from that very day Kali, who had already partially appeared, became fully manifest to create inauspicious conditions for those who are endowed with a poor fund of knowledge. Purport: the influence of Kali can be enforced only upon those who are not fully developed in God consciousness. One can neutralize the effects of Kali by keeping oneself fully under the supreme care of the personality of Godhead. The age of Kali ensued just after the battle of Kurukshetra, but it could not exert its influence because of the presence of the Lord. The Lord, however, left this earthly planet in his own transcendental body, and as soon as he left, the symptoms of the Kali Yuga, as were envisioned by Maharaj Yudhisthira prior to Arjuna's arrival from Dwarka, began to manifest, and Maharaj Yudhisthira rightly conjectured on the departure of the Lord from the earth. As we have already explained, the Lord left our sight just as when the sun sets, it is out of our sight. Yudhishthirashtat Parasharpanam Buddha Pure cha rashtre cha grihe tatmani Vabhavya loban nritya jima hangsanadya dharma chakram samanaya parayadat. Maharaj Yudhisthira was intelligent enough to understand the influence of the age of Kali, characterized by increasing avarice, falsehood, cheating, and violence throughout the capital, state, home, and among individuals. So he wisely prepared himself to leave home, and he dressed accordingly. Purport: the present age is influenced by the specific qualities of Kali. Since the days of the battle of Kurukshetra, about 5,000 years ago, the influence of the age of Kali began manifesting, and from authentic scriptures it is learned that the age of Kali is still to run on for 427,000 years. The symptoms of the Kali Yuga, as mentioned above, namely avarice, falsehood, diplomacy, cheating, nepotism, violence, and all such things, are already in vogue, and no one can imagine what is going to happen gradually with further increase of the influence of Kali till the day of annihilation. We have already come to know that the influence of the age of Kali is meant for godless so-called civilized man. Those who are under the protection of the Lord have nothing to fear from this horrible age. Maharaj Yudhisthira was a great devotee of the Lord, and there was no necessity of his being afraid of the age of Kali. But he preferred to retire from active household life and prepare himself to go back home, back to Godhead. The Pandavas are eternal companions of the Lord, and therefore they are more interested in the company of the Lord than anything else. Besides that, being an ideal king, Maharaj Yudhisthira wanted to retire just to set an example for others. As soon as there is some young fellow to look after the household affairs, one should at once retire from family life to uplift oneself to spiritual realization. That's funny. Usually it's like a son. The way he puts it, as soon as there's some young fellow to look after the household affairs. That's just funny to me. One should not rot in the dark well of household life till one is dragged out by the will of Yamaraj. Modern politicians should take lessons from Maharaj Yudhisthira about voluntary retirement from active life and should make room for the younger generation. Also, retired old gentlemen should take lessons from him and leave home for spiritual realization before forcibly dragged away to meet death. Hare Krishna. Time's ticking. Sarat bhautam vinayanam atmana susamam gunai toyanivya patim bhumer abhyasanjarya javaye. Thereafter, in the capital of Hastinapur, he enthroned his grandson, who was trained and equally qualified, as the emperor and master of all land bordered by the seas. Purport: the total land on the earth bordered by the seas was under the subjugation of the king of Hastinapur. Maharaj Yudhisthira trained his grandson, Maharaj Parikshit, who was equally qualified, in state administration in terms of the king's obligation to the citizens. Thus Parikshit was enthroned on the seat of Maharaj Yudhisthira prior to his departure back to Godhead. Concerning Maharaj Parikshit, the specific word used, vinayanam, is significant. Why was the king of Hastinapur, at least till the time of Maharaj Parikshit, accepted as the emperor of the world? The only reason is that the people of the world were happy because of the good administration of the emperor. The happiness of the citizens was due to the ample production of natural produce such as grains, fruits, milk, herbs, valuable stones, minerals, and everything that the people needed. They were even free from all bodily miseries, anxieties of mind, and disturbances caused by natural phenomena and other living beings. Because everyone was happy in all respects, there was no resentment, although there were sometimes battles between the state kings for political reasons and supremacy. Everyone was trained to attain the highest goal of life, and therefore the people were also enlightened enough not to quarrel over trivialities. The influence of the age of Kali gradually infiltrated the good qualities of both the kings and the citizens, and therefore a tense situation developed between the ruler and the ruled. But still, even in this age of disparity between the ruler and the ruled, there can be spiritual emolument and God consciousness. That is a special prerogative. Maturayam tata vajram Shurasena patim tataha Prajapatyam nirupyeshtim agnin abhiparishvaraha. Then he posted Vajra, the son of Aniruddha, grandson of Lord Krishna, at Mathura as the king of Shurasena. Afterwards, Maharaj Yudhisthira performed the Prajapatya sacrifice and placed in himself the fire for quitting household life. Purport: Maharaj Yudhisthira, after placing Maharaj Parikshit on the imperial throne of Hastinapur, and after posting Vajra, the great-grandson of Lord Krishna, as the king of Mathura, accepted the renounced order of life. The system of 4 orders of life and 4 castes in terms of quality and work, known as Varnashram Dharma, is the beginning of real human life, and Maharaj Yudhisthira, as the protector of this system of human activities, timely retired from active life as a sannyasi, handing over the charge of the administration to a trained prince, Maharaj Parikshit. The scientific system of Varnashram Dharma divides the human life into 4 divisions of occupation and 4 orders of life. The 4 orders of life as brahmacharya, grihastha, vanaprastha, and sannyasi are to be followed by all, irrespective of the occupational division. Modern politicians do not wish to retire from active life, even if they are old enough. But Yudhisthira Maharaj, as an ideal king, voluntarily retired from active administrative life to prepare himself for the next life. Everyone's life must be so arranged that the last stage of life, say at least the last 15 to 20 years prior to death, can be absolutely devoted to the devotional service of the Lord to attain the highest perfection of life. It is really foolishness to engage oneself in all the days of one's life in material enjoyment and fruitive activities, because as long as the mind remains absorbed in fruitive work for material enjoyment, there's no chance of getting out from conditioned life or material bondage. No one should follow the suicidal policy of neglecting one's supreme task of attaining the highest perfection of life, namely going back home, back to Godhead. Any comments, questions at this point from any hearers? Realizations, chastisements, compliments? I was kidding. Don't need compliments.
I don't have anything. Do you have anything?
No. To be honest, I'm half delirious from all the kirtan and stuff.
Right.
But I'm hearing. I'm hearing what's going on here. It sounds nice. Just drinking it in. Vishrajya tatratat sarvam tukula vilayadikam nirmamo nirahankara sanjana shesha bandanaha. Maharaj Yudhisthira at once relinquished all his garments, belt, and ornaments of the royal order and became completely disinterested and unattached to everything. Purport. To become purified of material contamination is the necessary qualification for becoming one of the associates of the Lord. No one can become an associate of the Lord or can go back to Godhead without such purification. Maharaj Yudhisthira, therefore, to become spiritually pure, at once gave up his royal opulence, relinquishing his royal dress and garments. The kashaya, or saffron loincloth of a sannyasi, indicates freedom from all attractive material garments, and thus he changed his dress accordingly. He became disinterested in his kingdom and family, and thus became free from all material contamination, material designation. People are generally attached to various kinds of designations. The designations of family, society, country, occupation, wealth, position, and many others. As long as one is attached to such designations, he is considered materially impure. The so-called leaders of men in the modern age are attached by national consciousness. But they do not know that such false consciousness is also another designation of the materially conditioned soul. One has to relinquish such designations before one can become eligible to go back to Godhead. Foolish people adore such men who die in national consciousness. Foolish people adore such men who die in national consciousness. But here's an example of Maharaj Yudhisthira, a royal king who prepared himself to leave this world without such national consciousness. And yet he is remembered even today because he was a great pious king, almost on the same level with the personality of Godhead Sri Ram. And because people of the world were dominated by such pious kings, they were happy in all respects, and it was quite possible for such great emperors to rule the world. What do you think? National consciousness.
Yeah, definitely got to give that up for sure. Not to mention like sports team consciousness.
Yeah, and boil it on down. Town, city, state, city, town, street. Yeah. Body. Yeah. I'm just seeing it more and more for some reason lately, or maybe it's just clicking right now. But yeah, I mean, I don't really talk to too many people, like much. But it seems like, I have acquaintances that periodically, whatever, something comes up, or we bump into each other, or something like that, or someone who I'm not like intimately associating with much, but have some kind of rapport with or something. And almost every time, probably national consciousness is something that they bring up in the conversation, or they make some remark that kind of hints towards whatever the political climate or the political situation or something
Right.
like that. Like everybody, like so many people are really like, you know, identifying and with that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not bad to. It's natural for us to want to be connected, and we want good for where we live and whatever, even the government, and we want good stuff for us.
Mm-hmm.
So in that way, it's kind of natural. But unfortunately, our government is demoniac,
Yeah.
and people don't know when to draw the line, in their own self, so they don't get too much caught up in all that stuff. People are cultivating hate for other people based on it.
Right.
It's craziness.
Yeah. Hating other people not even for their actions, but just for like ideas that they come up.
Yeah, or even how they look. I get profiled by certain groups of people.
Right.
Yeah, me.
Sorry, Bull.
Can you believe that?
Mm-hmm.
All right, Bo, you have anything would like to add more?
I would like to comment on that last comment. Imagine the looks I get in the judgment. Prabhu.
So I couldn't hear you. Sorry, you were.
So sorry. I said, imagine the looks I get in our association, even. Like, it's crazy.
Well, yeah, yeah. People have their desires and how they want to identify, and some people are, they're actually lost in the material world, with no desire of to
So
get out
I
or do anything. Sorry.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
Pablo. I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just going to let you know I have some very senior devotees that I'm friends with on social media. And it's so awkward to me that literally every day I get at least 10 to 15 political reels or it's outrageous. And my guru instructed me that, my guru does not partake in those activities, so neither do I, but it is wild.
Yeah, yeah. It's a good point also, and it's this is like actually bringing up a really important point to how important it is to read Prabhupada's books and apply it, because we're hearing directly here. I mean, some devotees, some might you know follow up, stay up on some stuff to be relevant in some circles or something like that, but usually that doesn't involve like broadcasting it to others and whatnot. It's like they're doing it for their own knowledge, for preaching purposes, which would naturally, um, kind of be a private thing, except for in the field in which they're preaching. But yeah, sometimes people, devotees even get caught up in it. And personally, I'll just share my personal standpoint is I pretty much don't preach to people unless they ask me something. And I try not to judge. If someone's doing something that maybe I wouldn't do, or something that I don't necessarily relate to, or whatever. I try to look at if there's anything that they're interested in, or what, like if there's some way I can relate to them. Because personally I like building rapport with people, even if it's of different degrees and stuff. But at the same time, sometimes people may be doing things that I really don't want to be around too much. But, not to judge them. And then still, if there's any possibility for some nice interaction, it's nice to be nice. Not required. So that's just me personally. I like to, um, find the spark of affection in there and try to find it in myself and share it with others. And sometimes that just means smiling as we walk by each other or something. I don't really want to stop and talk to him because I know what he's gonna say. Every time I talk to this particular, I'm just making up somebody right now, but every time I talk to this particular person, they always go on a rant about, I don't know, Trump or something. It's like, hi, Bob, gee, nice to see you, and wish you well. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, back. It's just a testament to also how deep Prabhupada's teachings are, and how fortunate we are to hear them. Hare Krishna. Okay, I think I'm only gonna read one more verse for now. Vacham juhava manasi taprana itare chatam mrityavapanam satsargam tam panchatve havit. Then he amalgamated all the sense organs into the mind. Then the mind into life into breathing, his total existence into the embodiment of the five elements, and his body into death. Then, as pure self, he became free from the material conception of life. Purport: Maharaj Yudhisthira, like his brother Arjuna, began to concentrate and gradually became freed from all material bondage. First, he concentrated all the actions of the senses and amalgamated them into the mind. Or, in other words, he turned his mind toward the transcendental service of the Lord. He prayed that since all material activities are performed by the mind in terms of actions and reactions of the material senses, and since he was going back to Godhead, the mind would wind up his material activities and be turned towards the transcendental service of the Lord. There is no longer a need for material activities. Actually, the activities of the mind cannot be stopped, for they are the reflection of the eternal soul. But the quality of the activities can be changed from matter to the transcendental service of the Lord. The material color of the mind is is changed when one washes it from contaminations of life, breathing. The material color of the mind is changed when one washes it from the contaminations of life, breathing, and thereby frees it from the contamination of repeated births and deaths, and situates it in pure spiritual life. All is manifested by the temporary embodiment of the material body, which is a production of the mind at the time of death. And if the mind is purified by practice of transcendental loving service to the Lord, and is constantly engaged in the service of the lotus feet of the Lord, there is no more chance of the mind's producing another material body after death. It will be freed from absorption in material contamination. The pure soul will be able to return home back to Godhead. Jai. Hare Krishna. So, how you feeling, Prabhuji?
Pretty good. All is manifested by the temporary embodiment of material body.
Well, one interesting point is all is manifested by the temporary embodiment of the material body, which is a production of the mind at the time of death. Pretty interesting. Somehow I was attached to having this kind of body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wonder if the time, like if we choose the time. I mean, I guess the desire to.
Hey, both
Sorry, bro. Just arrived actually. Sorry.
No problem. We're just about to finish soon, actually.
No, I will just hear whatever I can hear.
No problem. How was your day?
It was good, bro.
Dr. C was just cooking something up.
Yeah, I was just thinking, like, I wonder if we like choose the time that we come into. Also, like, our mind at the time of death kind of like creates the body based on like how much we want to enjoy. I assume that like we're put into a time where we can enjoy like exactly the way that we want to. Like, I'm always like appreciating the time that I'm living in because it's like there's so much like evolution going on. Like, I was in school when like computers were introduced to us, and now like AI is being introduced. It's just like a very like revolutionary changing. It's like it's entertaining to watch like everything that's going on in this life materially, and also spiritually. So yeah, it's always like I'm always like wondering like, did I choose to come here at this time? Because this is a pretty exciting time to be alive.
Well, you know, it has been said that our current situation at the present moment is the accumulation of all of our desires and activities and results of our activities. So it's like an interesting combination of, I'm sure we had some desires that brought us here, but there's also so many things happening that I didn't desire at any point.
Right.
You know, it's like the reaction from previous attachments, what have you,
Right.
actions.
Yep.
You know, how many times was I, whatever, maybe I was so many ants and was getting stepped on so many times, and then that karma has to work out to now I sometimes step on an ant or something.
Mm-hmm.
So nobody wants cancer, but they smoke. Yeah. Any thoughts? Krishna, Krishna. Did you have something?
Well said, Prabhu.
Oh, thank you. Oh, all right. We'll hear maybe another one. 42. Okay. Chapanchatpam Chachakatve Jahonmani Sarvamatmanyajuhavid Brahmanyatmanamavyaye. Thus annihilating the gross body of 5 elements into the 3 qualitative modes of material nature, he merged them in one nescience, and then absorbed that nescience in the self, Brahman, which is inexhaustible in all circumstances. Purport. All that is manifested in the material world is the product of the Mahat Tattva of Yakta. And things that are visible in our material vision are nothing but combinations and permutations of such variegated material products. But the living entity is different from such material products. It is due to the living entity's forgetfulness of his eternal nature as eternal servitor of the Lord, and his false conception of being a so-called Lord of the material nature, that he is obliged to enter into the existence of false... Wait a minute. Sorry, I'm going to read that again. I didn't like that. It is due to the living entity's forgetfulness of his eternal nature as eternal servitor of the Lord, and his false conception of being a so-called Lord of the material nature, that he is obliged to enter into the existence of false sense enjoyment. Thus, a concomitant generation of material energies is the principal cause of the mind's being materially affected. Thus, the gross body of 5 elements is produced. Maharaj Yudhisthira reversed the action and merged the 5 elements of the body in the 3 modes of material nature. The qualitative distinction of the body as being good, bad, or mediocre is extinguished, and again the qualitative manifestations become merged in the material energy, which is produced from a false sense of the pure living being. When one is thus inclined to become an associate of the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, in one of the innumerable planets of the spiritual sky, especially in Goloka Vrindavan, one has to think always that he is different from the material energy. He has nothing to do with it, and he has to realize himself as pure spirit, Brahman, qualitatively equal with the Supreme Brahman, Parameshvar. Maharaj Yudhisthira, after distributing his kingdom to Parikshit and Vajra, did not think himself emperor of the world or head of the Kuru dynasty. This sense of freedom from material relations, as well as freedom from the material engagement of the gross and subtle encirclement, makes one free to act as the servitor of the Lord, even though one is in the material world. This stage is called the Jivan Mukta stage, or the liberated stage, even in the material world. That is the process of ending material existence. One must not only think that he is Brahman, but must act like Brahman. One who only thinks himself Brahman is an impersonalist, and one who acts like Brahman is the pure devotee. Gyan and Vigyan. Oh, all right. Another one. Chiravasana bhadavan muktamurhajaha darshayanat manorupam jaronmata pishachavat anavikshamano niragar ashranvan badhiro yata. After that, Maharaj Yudhisthira dressed himself in torn clothing, gave up eating all solid foods, voluntarily became dumb, and let his hair hang loose. Man, you're like halfway there. All this combined to make him look like an urchin or madman with no occupation. He did not depend on his brothers for anything, and just like a deaf man, he heard nothing. Purport. Thus being freed from all external affairs, he had nothing to do with imperial life or family prestige. And for all practical purposes, he posed himself exactly like an inert mad urchin, and did not speak of material affairs. He had no dependence on his brothers, who had all along been helping him. This stage of complete independence from everything is also called the purified stage of fearlessness. Udijim bhavivishasam gatapurvam mahatmabhihi Brahma param yayannavarteta yato gataha. He then started towards the north, treading the path accepted by his forefathers and great men, to devote himself completely to the thought of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he lived in that way wherever he went. Purport. It is understood from this verse that Maharaj Yudhisthira followed in the footsteps of his forefathers and the great devotees of the Lord. We have discussed many times before that the system of Varnashram Dharma, as it was strictly followed by the inhabitants of the world, specifically by those who inhabited the Aryavart province of the world, emphasizes the importance of leaving all household connections at a certain stage of life. The training and education was so imparted, and thus a respectable person like Maharaj Yudhisthira had to leave all family connection for self-realization and going back to Godhead. No king or respectable gentleman would continue family life till the end, because that was considered suicidal and against the interest of the perfection of human life. In order to be free from all family encumbrances and devote oneself 100% in the devotional service of Lord Krishna, this system is always recommended for everyone because it is the path of authority. The Lord instructs in the Bhagavad Gita 1862 that one must become a devotee of the Lord at least at the last stage of one's life. A sincere soul of the Lord, like Maharaj Yudhisthira, must abide by this instruction of the Lord for his own interest. The specific words Brahma Padam indicate Lord Sri Krishna. This is corroborated in the Bhagavad Gita 10.13 by Arjuna with reference to great authorities like Asita, Devala, Narada, and Vyas. Thus, Maharaj Yudhisthira, while leaving home for the north, constantly remembered Lord Sri Krishna within himself, following in the footsteps of his forefathers as well as the great devotees of all times. Sarvetam anunir jagmur bratara kritanishchaya kalina dharma mitrena jasvas sprishta prajabhuvi. The younger brothers of Maharaj Yudhisthira observed that the age of Kali had already arrived throughout the world and that the citizens of the kingdom were already affected by irreligious practice. Therefore, they decided to follow in the footsteps of their elder brother. Purport. The younger brothers of Maharaj Yudhisthira were already obedient followers of the great emperor, and they had sufficiently been trained to know the ultimate goal of life. They therefore decidedly followed their eldest brother in rendering devotional service to Lord Sri Krishna. According to the principles of Sanatana Dharma, one must retire from family life after half the duration of life is finished, and must engage himself in self-realization. But the question of engaging oneself is not always decided. Sometimes retired men are bewildered about how to engage themselves for the last days of life. Here's a decision by authorities like the Pandavas. All of them engaged themselves in favorably culturing the devotional service of the Lord Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. According to Swami Sridhar, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, or fruit of activities, philosophical speculations, and salvation, as conceived by several persons, are not the ultimate goal of life. They are more or less practiced by persons who have no information of the ultimate goal of life. The ultimate goal of life is already indicated by the Lord himself in the Bhagavad Gita 1864. And the Pandavas were intelligent enough to follow it without hesitation. Hare Krishna. Any points at this time? To me, to hear it like directly from Prabhupada, it sounds like, so clear, But then, when we're in the world, it's so easy to get caught up in it or become attracted to certain things and just immediately forget that, the clarity of the way Prabhupada's speaking. The world is so it just pulls you in,
Yeah, so void of religion, like religious activities, on a moment-to-moment basis. Religion is reserved for Sundays for most people. The Pandavas, they lived when Krishna was around, absorbed in Krishna, and then he's gone, and it's Kali Yuga, they're alright, nah, we're just gonna, absorb ourselves in Krishna still.
Right. Yeah, and the religion that's saved for Sundays most of the time isn't even really religion. I mean, in the minds of the people.
Mm-hmm.
So many people go to church just because, social thing, social pressure or whatever. So many people just go because their spouse makes them.
Mm-hmm.
They don't get anything from it. They go to show their new fancy watch, or something.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of stuff. Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. Yeah. But in Kali Yuga, we still have the one leg of religion left, truthfulness, which is also slowly diminishing. Krishna. Well, it is actually time to stop now. We were going to end a little early. We're thinking of going to another kirtan. Are you going this evening at all?
Don't know, bro. I need to ask.
Okay. Well, if there's no other points, then we can end here. It's nectar to the ears.
I'm satisfied.
I'd hate to end with you just coming.
I wish I came earlier, but
No,
just arrived and
I'm very grateful
I
that
wanted
you
to
still
get some
came.
any of your thoughts and just wanted to hear your voice. Okay.
Well, what about anything relevant to you? Like anything like in your experience in your life that's like like not totally clear or sometimes funny or anything like dealing with people sometimes or you know sometimes dealing with institutions can be frustrating and just kind of there's like so many little micro applications that actually tend to like take us away from remembering Krishna, but actually can be used also to even remember Krishna more. And you're probably you know
Yeah, but yeah, that's true. Yeah, we have choices to live our life, and then each time we have the minor independence. But yeah, I think I agree with you. Like when I read Prabhupada's book, then it seems like yeah, Prabhupada is actually making a strong point. But when I'm alone, then that's where the choice comes, and that's where it actually like that's where the point comes that are you being hypocrite or like I've many times I feel like I'm like a parrot like saying I know like few things in the scriptures, but do I actually follow it? That's where the question comes. I really like most of the time I feel like I'm a parrot, like I can say things, but following it like to the extent or to the degree which Prabhupada writes in these books,
right.
that is actually very like Yogal Kishore Prabhu was also making a point that a person's real nature is basically comes out when he's alone basically, or whatever he does in privacy, not like in front of everyone,
Right.
so yeah, I just feel that way.
Yeah, and hearing Prabhupada's purports, like the depth of the culture, the way he understands the devotional culture, as opposed to, I mean, it's so far. I mean, to people now, I mean, myself included, like, especially here, there's no concept of like, there's something he just said a second ago. What did he say? Uh, a respectable person. Yeah, there's no concept of this at all in America. Like, a respectable person like Mars Yudhisthira had to leave all family connection for self-realization and going back to Godhead. No king or respectable gentleman would continue family life till the end because that was considered suicidal and against the interest of the perfection of human life. I mean, in America, that is like their whole goal. You know, is like the family enjoyments and building the house that you always wanted and the place you always wanted and setting everything up exactly how you wish it would be eternally. I've seen so many times like people in their 50s, 60s, even 70s like finally complete a huge 20-year project of building a perfect house on this perfect thing, and they just so many things they work so hard, or they have the vehicles they want, the house they want, and they finally got everything just the way they want it, and then they die.
I remember one very nice example which I heard from one brahmachari. He was telling like, like how people like me and people like me and karmis, how they work. It's basically compared. I think it's in Bhagavatam only it comes. It's compared to how honeybees go and gather honey and they make like the honeycomb. But then the honey gatherer, I don't know what they're called. The honey gatherer comes and he just pokes it and then everything is gone. Like that we also are not we. People like me and the Karmis, they work so hard. They go and put their, oh, this is my home, this is me, this is my wife, this is my child, and then they do all this stuff. But then honey collector or comes as a death and then just takes everything away.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing against setting things up nicely, but
yeah, but not being attached to it.
right, at least keeping awareness, like, okay, this isn't everything here, at the very least, right? Okay, but can you imagine? I mean, can you imagine a life without Krishna, no God consciousness, like nothing of any of this?
You don't have any purpose of living.
You're
Yeah,
just trying to be better than everybody else
Yeah.
materially.
Yeah.
This is a big competition at that point.
Yeah.
yeah. People are suffering like anything. Yeah.
Because I think our constitutional position is to serve, like Prabhupada was saying. That I even heard this, that even while sleeping you're serving your body, you know. So we are like meant to serve, but then people just ignore that. And then,
Yeah, they think they're meant to be served.
yeah, they've been, yeah, or
That,
they want to be the, yeah, meant to be who is served, or they want to be the.
that's why they, if you're sitting at a red light and the light turns green and you don't go immediately, then they're really mad.
Yeah, they'll honk.
Honking on the horn because you inconvenience them for 1 second. Yeah, yeah, people. Yeah, yeah. But it's actually nice to be able to observe things going on, and as long as we keep hearing, then actually like we can learn so many lessons in observing what's going on, and like developing our own character and our own mind, not to get caught in it or whatever's going on, or so frustrated by these things. But it's actually, all right, this person's very impatient. Actually, having compassion for people, not judging people, and actually, the things that tend to like trigger us, things that make me mad or upset, usually the thing or that tend to be the things that I myself do. Yeah, like, oh man, quit. Why are you driving so close to me? And they're in a rush, and then and 20 minutes later, I'm like, come on, go faster. I'm gonna, like I'm trying to go somewhere. It's the same thing. It's funny. Anyway, Krishna. Yeah, it's amazing. Krishna consciousness just really just pushes all that out. Actually, you can be in traffic, someone's behind you. Sometimes you can be like you're just in Krishna consciousness, and it's like, oh, yeah, let me go a little faster for this guy, or for a little service. I can understand his frustration. Who knows? You never know this person. You never know what. He just got a call that his mother is sick, and he's trying to make it to the hospital, or you never know. Who knows? We tend to be so like self-centered. It's good to practice you know, not doing that. Hare Krishna. Okay, well, anything else? Looks like not. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Yeah.
Vanja kopa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya cha patitanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki. Yeah, Srimad Bhagavatam. I think it's the second verse of Bhagavatam. Basically, it's described that Srimad Bhagavatam is the highest truth, distinguished from illusion, for the welfare of all. I've been really thinking about that. This whole yajna we're doing is, 7 days of kirtan for world peace. And, the most advanced devotees I've ever had the privilege of associating with, they all had very strong moods of just compassion and care for people in general, and the earth and all living entities, and cultivating that mood of compassion, care, understanding, and service. It's really amazing. We can cultivate that more and more. And actually, in my little experience, it gives more of a taste, for hearing. Actually, yeah. Hare Krishna. So, with that being said, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you very much. Hare Ball. We will be here tomorrow, Krishna willing, same time. Hare Krishna.